Good afternoon from Singapore. 下午好, from Singapore. My name is Emmanuel Daniel. I'm the founder of the Asian Banker. 我是易理，我的中文名字是易理，我是亚洲银行家的主席。I want to say welcome to all of you to this Huawei virtual conference, the APAC Financial Industry Storage Summit 2020. It's a very important conference because Huawei has made some tremendous inroads into the revolution taking place in data management, data storage, and the delivery of data-driven technologies. This conference will be about incorporating a lot of these changes that Huawei has brought into the industry to how we should be applying these revolutions into the way in which we interact within our organizations, with our customers, as well as the world at large. The theme is Unleash the Power of Data-Driven Intelligent Finance. We're going to break down this theme into its component in the rest of this conference. But let me start by sharing with you some perspectives that we put together at TAP Research that will help us in our conversation for the rest of this conference. As a preamble to the discussions that we're going to have today, let me lead you through a very short presentation just to give us a sense of what we mean by data and the size, the massiveness of what we mean by data, and the business models that are being generated today that should make us excited about how they can all be applied to financial services. Data is crucial for business. Data is crucial for any form of interaction, right? So data has always been there. But with the onset of the internet and then with the browser technology and platforms and so on, we've now had a history of about almost 30 years of business models that have been introduced and transformed several times on the back of data at the back end and platforms in the front end. So when we think about companies like Microsoft, which we are familiar with, it's a company that used to be very different in its early days. It used to be software that sat in a laptop or a PC. Today, it's software that's delivered on the cloud. The way in which we buy and we interact with that platform is very different today than it was before. Same thing with companies like Amazon. Right? The more technology they put into the whole ability to deliver, the more seamless their delivery process and the experience and the things that they can do with customers increases as a result of artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and so on. You know, when you think about Alibaba's Singles Day, you're talking about 74 billion dollars worth of transaction. The first billion is in the first minute of transaction. So the speed of the experience is as important as the size of the experience. And so when we look at all of the companies that are being very well valued in the stock market today, in fact, right now, as we're having this discussion, we think about Tesla and how that's revolutionizing Tesla. So let's just take a look at Tesla. But before that, the big question is, what should we be looking at from in the financial services industry that will help us to harness data into our business models? We are looking at the ability to process and manipulate massive amounts of data. And I want to give you a sense of what I mean by that. We are thinking about the ability to create new ecosystems. Now, some of these ecosystems are part of the financial institution or the fintech or the disruptor that is holding those relationships together. But sometimes the financial institution has to belong to part of a larger ecosystem in which it's not a primary service provider, but it's a beneficiary. Right? So financial institutions need to figure out how to play both sides of the equation. It's also about creating new customer experiences. Just by increasing latency, you can introduce new business models that didn't exist before. So surgery, for example, it's possible to do remote surgery, and suddenly healthcare, the quality of healthcare increases dramatically in parts of the world that did not have access to that. And the same thing needs to happen in financial services. So all of these require us to think a lot about business models. And I want to be able to talk to our panel later about how they conceptualize business models as they raise the expectations in terms of the technology that's being made available to them. You know, the funny thing about financial institutions is that we tend to think that the data that we have is inside the institution, inside a bank, inside the mainframe, is much more important than the data that sits outside. Banks still think that way. So when they work with their API layer, they like to think that the API has a privilege to access the static data that is inside the institution. But look at the business models that are coming through, that are becoming important and defining society as we know it to be. Think about Amazon, right? 2,000 data points just to deliver a very simple transaction of a book to your doorstep. Think about Alibaba, for example, the Singles Day. You're talking about $74 billion worth of transactions in one day, and some of its customers make all their sales for the whole year in that one day, and $1 billion in the first minute of transactions. Now, these are all new business models, right? Think about Netflix now, and other movie channels on the app today. The challenge there is to keep customers, to be able to read their preferences, to keep them addicted to watching movies and entertainment and content, basically. So there's the whole use of data in content management and relationship management around content, right? And the same thing can be said about TikTok. In fact, the big thing about TikTok is that it's data relationships with a whole new generation. It's not even millennial anymore. It's post-millennial, Generation Z or something like that, right? Which some of us may not even understand. And even traditional businesses like Starbucks, which recently announced that it's going to be closing down a lot of its stores, now needs to balance between the physical experience and the online experience for something as physical as coffee, right? So data and the ability to manipulate data and latency and the artificial intelligence that go into it, all of these are very important. But let me, drill you down into, the latest fad, the latest darling of the stock market, Tesla. Just imagine this, right? Every Tesla car processes 4 terabytes of data a day, right? And then it's got several data infrastructure that it deploys in order to not only capture the data, but also to use that data, right? Both for anti-collision, for autonomous driving, for car maintenance, and so on. So it's got every one of the data capture technology, the LiDAR, the GPS, the radar, the camera, the sonar. Each one of these are products in themselves. In other words, when we think Tesla, we are not thinking a car. We're not even thinking transport. We're thinking multiple technologies. We are talking accuracy in terms of location, proximity, and proximity is a very important thing today because of COVID, because the whole idea of being able to be remote in terms of interacting with each other and so on. Now, when we see a chart like this, which has Tesla as a product in the middle, what we need to think about when we think about financial services is, what is it that is the product in financial services? Now, in the old days, we think the product is a mortgage. We think that a customer comes in to buy a mortgage. But a customer is not interested in a mortgage. He's interested in a house. He's interested in a livelihood. He's interested in a family. He's interested in a sense of security. He's interested in a sense of experience. He's interested in a comfortableness or a value of his own personal life. And all of these elements are data points, right? And so a financial institution shouldn't be selling mortgages. It should be selling experience. It should be selling a relationship that can be monetized and an asset that can be maximized, because now with business models like Airbnb and so on, your house is not a sitting asset in the same way that a car is not an asset that sits in the garage 90% of the time. In fact, it can be utilized and you don't even need a car. You can actually rent the use of a car because of the amount of data that is now available, right? And then when you think about why Tesla has shot up way over its competitors, it's a marketplace that has got a number of traditional players, right? Audi, Porsche, Jaguar, BYD, and so on. They all have autonomous vehicles. Now, why did Tesla pull away from all of them? Because of the amount of data that it's able to process. Just imagine this, right? Tesla processes 10 billion miles worth of road information today, and its nearest competitor, I think it's Google, has only processed about 20 million. 10 billion, 20 billion. So now you're looking at a massive differentiation in terms of business models, not just the product, but the things that they can do with it, and the breakthroughs that a player like Tesla brings into the marketplace. The future of financial services has to contend with a number of frontier territory, right? 5G, and how that converges with emerging technologies. And even simple things like the app that sits on your phone, the experience level goes up, like in multiple times. And we now are able to add AR and VR experiences to the device, right? And the device takes a life of its own. So we start to think a little bit about the experience of a financial institution with its customers. It used to be in the old days that they have to turn up at a branch. And then we thought, okay, everything is going mobile. And then now, mobile is taking a life of its own. Big data. I started this presentation by saying that banks love the data that sits inside the institution rather than the one that sits outside. We are coming to an era where the data that sits outside is multiple times more important than the data that sits inside the institution. Just think about it. What is it that you have in your bank inside your infrastructure? You've got a GL, right? You've got a transaction data, and you've got CRM. All of them are static. They're historical. They're not alive, and they don't relate with the values that your customers have. I'm not just talking about the fact that banks need to appreciate their customers and so on. I'm saying that your customers are moving on to do things with their lives which you're not able to keep up because you think that the product in a bank is an asset that the customer keeps with you. A mortgage, as in a house, a loan, or a credit card. The customer is not interested in those products as they are, or as they've been configured by the financial institutions. They are interested in spending. They are interested in living. They are interested in maximizing a burden, which is what an asset is if it wasn't utilized fully. And all of this, of course, takes a whole new dimension as COVID makes online more important, contactless more important, remote more important, and so on, right? So all these are changing the relationships themselves. So let me just, start this conference by zeroing us into the one question that we need to answer today, because we are all people from within the financial institution, financial services industry, right? Data, AI, IoT, and massive data. data that used to sit in silos within the institution. In other words, your credit card department has data that your mortgage department has no access to. Your corporate banking or your small business banking department has data about the high net worth who runs a small business and which is not connected to the wealth management business of that same customer, right? So silos. Now, all of these elements have to be things of the past. Now, if a company like Huawei is introducing the ability to process, hold, and create intelligence around massive amounts of data, the kind that we saw companies like Tesla now dealing with, the question to ask ourselves is, how in the world should we be organized? A traditional bank has a CEO and he's got a line of senior managers and then people working on a product basis. We don't need to be organized that way anymore, right? And banks think that what customers come to see them for are products. Oh, we have a mortgage product. Oh, we have a loan product, an investment product. No, customers in many cases don't even want to come and see you until they need you, right? So we need to think about our products and we need to be revolutionary about our products. Now just think about this, right? When Alibaba had a huge Nostro account because of its relationship between the small businesses that were users of its platform, it was able to introduce a very famous mutual fund, okay, by buying into mutual fund organization called Yuebao, and it became the world's largest mutual fund. And when you think about the latency that was provided through that fund, which is mom and pops being able to buy and sell funds online instantaneously, and that fund is invested in the interbank market, that became a current account. It was no longer a mutual fund, right? So that's what I mean by revolution on the product front because of latency, because of speed, because of availability, because of convenience. So as we continue in this conference, let's ask ourselves this question: how should we be organized, both at the hierarchical front as well as on the product front as financial institutions to keep up with the revolution that is underway? Remember the days of data warehousing, the early days of data management in the 1990s that brought together the way in which big businesses like banking understood data and tried to apply it? And look at the journey that we've been through in all those years. We've gone through concepts like big data, analytics, and so on, and now we are making it more and more intelligent into areas like IoT. We need to think a lot more about how that journey in data management has actually transformed the institution itself. And the people who should be speaking about this should be the business owners. So I'm very pleased right now to be able to introduce to all of us Sim Lim, the Group Head, Consumer Banking and Wealth Management of DBS Bank, to give us a presentation. And he's going to share with us DBS digital transformation in enhancing customer journey. And as all of us know, DBS is an organization that has been spearheading a lot of the innovations that we now see in finance today.
Hi, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank Huawei for giving this opportunity to talk about the DBS digital transformation journey. Let me take maybe in the next 10-15 minutes to explain what we've been doing and how DBS has been transforming themselves. To give you a very snapshot for those of you who may not understand DBS that well, DBS is really a leading bank in Asia, and we have a AA- rating. We've been ranked the safest bank in Asia for about 11 years in a row. And in the last year, we were awarded the best digital bank in the world. We are about $518 billion in asset, and we have about 8.8 million consumer bank in the bulk customers. We have over 200,000 institutional banking customers. We have a great capital position and we have about 26,000 future-ready workforce. We are in about 18 markets, and we have 280 branches all over the world. The way we define DBS is that we are stating that instead of we are being a bank, we are now a technology company using data and ecosystem partnership to create great solutions with demonstrable outcomes in a sustainable way. That is a statement that the group CEO has come up with now. And instead of being a bank, which is really a company that represents all industry, we are trying to reinvent ourselves to say that we are a technology company that will use data and AI, leveraging on the ecosystem to do things differently. When we talk about DBS digital transformation, we ask why we need to transform. How are we transforming, and what have we done to transform? What is the outcome that we have arrived at? For today's talk, I'm going to spend more time on describing why we need to transform. I will describe sort of the big picture of what we look at now, and I probably will not go so much into the detail on how we are transforming and the outcome that we have. So just bear with me because this is going to be quite a shorter presentation than I normally give. I want to take one step back and talk about industrial revolutions. These are, I think, pivotal times in history that basically where the bank reinvent themselves, or the world reinvent themselves, actually. Historian marked 1784 as the first industrial revolution. And that was the age whereby, I guess, machine came in for faster production. The second industrial revolution is marked by historian in 1870. And that's when the Model T, the Ford Model T, went on the assembly line. And from the first industrial revolution to the second industrial revolution took 86 years. Historians marked the third industrial revolution in 1969, which they call the start of the digital age. I'll talk a little bit more about that, but it's really the race to the moon, on Apollo 11 that really give rise to the start of the digital age. And I'll talk a little bit about that in greater detail later on. Now, the fourth industrial revolution is quite unusual in the sense that it is not the historian, but it is the economist today that says that 2016 is the start of the industrial revolution. If you think about it, most time people will look back and pinpoint a year to say that that was the start of a new revolution. But we are living in it, as it's been pointed out, that 2016 is the start of the next big thing. And I think the key word for the fourth industrial revolution is big data and artificial intelligence. We in DBS ask ourselves, what are the technology that's impacting the bank today? Don't get me wrong, I think there's many different kinds of technology that's impacted the way we live, the way we work. But in terms of banking, we ask ourselves, what are the five technology, or what are the technology that really has impacted and that will can make a difference to being a technology company instead of being a bank? We look at cloud technology, we look at mobile, we look at connectivity, we look at AI, and we look at big data. We think these are the five most transformation technology that has impacted us. Now, you hear the word big data, but big data by itself, it's not good. You hear AI and big data, back to back, because AI without data is no good. Data without AI is no good. So AI and data has to come together. Data by itself has to be translated into information. Information has to be translated into knowledge. Knowledge has to be translated into wisdom. When you are able to take data to information, to knowledge, to wisdom, then you have insights. And once you have insights, you can act on it. And whether your data get transformated to wisdom is the ability of how strong your AI is. If your machine learning and your artificial intelligence has the capacity, because data by itself doesn't tell you much, but you are able to translate those data into information, to knowledge, to wisdom eventually. The other three technology on top, cloud technology has made a lot of things possible. In the past, when you want to compete with a bank, you need to be a bank to compete with a bank. But the emergence of cloud technology gave rise to the fintech. The fintech don't have to have the infrastructure of a bank and the high cost that goes with it. the fintech can actually borrow and take and scale, buy what they want, scale it when they want it, descale it when they don't need it. So I think the arrival of cloud have made it easier for the fintech to take on the big boys. The mobile technology, the mobile phone, in my personal opinion, I think the mobile phone is the single most impactful device created in the history of mankind to date. And the reason why I say that is that, you can't live without your mobile phone. You can leave home and forget your wallet, and you're okay with it. But if you leave home and you forget your mobile phone, you're very uncomfortable. Okay, the mobile phone is such a significant device that has impacted and changed the way we live, changed the way we interact with people. I'll give you a data point which I thought was very interesting. In 1969, July 20th, Apollo 11 landed on the moon. NASA actually had, five kilobyte of RAM, when they landed Apollo 11 on the moon. The Huawei phone that you hold in your hands today have 6 gigabyte of RAM. That is actually the 1.5 million times bigger than what NASA had when they landed Apollo 11 on the moon. So you can imagine what you can do with a kind of random access memory, the kind of computing power that you hold in your hand. So I think the most impactful device is the mobile phone. In DBS, we try to put the bank into your mobile and the mobile into your pocket. So literally, we put a bank in the pocket for you. That's how we think about it. The third point there on connectivity, is that in the past, when it comes to the bank, you only do banking instruments, you only do banking products. But today we have learned that you cannot just be a bank. You have to be connected in your ecosystem, upstream or downstream. When you buy something, payments is part of a banking service. How do we embed ourselves into your life such that you are using a bank without even realizing that you're using a bank? So when we look back, we think that these are the 5 most impactful technology that has impacted banking and transformed the way we think about banking. Now, this is a simple slide that basically tells, that explains how DBS is reacting to all the digital bank or the new world of digitization. It's basically broken into 4 quadrants, okay? We call it augmented banking, open banking, cognitive banking, and automation banking, okay? Augmented banking is really about the customer's experience. We augment your experience such that when you deal with a bank, it's such a joy to deal with. It's such a joy for you to deal with DBS. One of our slogans is making banking joyful. People don't think of coming to a bank and that it will be a joyful experience. And the way we react or the way we rise to a challenge is really our digital bank. So we feel that the digital banking experience, has enhanced and augmented the experience that the customers have when dealing with a bank. In the past, in some surveys, they say that people prefer to visit the dentist than to visit the bank. The reputation of how archived, banks are and how bureaucratic it is. We did not have a very good reputation, but I think the arrival of fintech has forced us to reinvent ourselves, and our rise to the equation or the occasion is to have a digital banking experience. The second quadrant is called open banking. Open banking is whereby we now have to work with all vendors to embed banking into the equation. You buy a movie ticket. When you want to pay for a movie ticket, our e-wallet is embedded. You're using us without even realizing that you're using us. We have open API to plug in with different vendors. So our response to the open banking, we call it the rise of the ecosystems. And using ecosystem to leverage your marketing, to leverage your customers acquisition, I think is key. When you work with a partner who has already 1 million customers, to tap on that 1 million customers that your ecosystem partner has, is one way whereby you can scale up very fast. The third quadrant is called cognitive banking, and I'll come back to that a little bit later. Let me jump to the fourth quadrant called automation banking. Automation banking is something that the banks have tried to do in the last, I guess, 20 years when they come up with this concept called straight-through processing, so that, from submission of an application, you don't need the middle office, you don't need the back office, everything is straight through. So our response to automation banking is called DFNO, DFNC, DFNB. What it stands for is that when we design a product, we design for no ops, we design for no cash, and we design for no branch. So when you do something, you don't need to come to the bank or to the branch, you don't need cash to do the transaction, and you don't need operations to support it. Everything is straight through. So that's our response to what we call automation banking. Now, let me come back to the third quadrant, which is called cognitive banking. I don't know of, maybe there are one or two, a handful of banks and companies, insurance companies in China that have done this very well, and it's cognitive banking. Our response is called the intelligent bank, or hyper-personalization, or N=1. The reason is that, with the data that you have, you can actually personalize it to N=1. If you know a customer is interested in Chinese stocks, when something happened in China, you send them the respective insights, you give them the respective solution, so the right insights with the right solution to the right customer at the right time with the right solution. That's what N=1 is all about. Now, if you know a customer is interested in a particular industry, let's say cybersecurity, and you know that from what he buys or what he invests in, this is the upstream and downstream of cybersecurity stocks that he might also be interested in. So by understanding what the customers have, you are able to give the right recommendation and to engage his interests. So this is what we call cognitive banking, N=1 hyper-personalization, whereby we know you so well, we know what your interests are, we know which region you are interested in, and we know how to curate our solutions or insights, to your interests. So in short, if I have to summarize it, with what's happening in the digital world today, with what's happening to banking, when we look at how we are transforming DBS, this is really the big picture of what we look at and how we have response to what's happening in this world. I'd like to thank Huawei for the time today. I have a short, maybe 15 minutes to explain what's going on. I just wanted to share a little bit of how we transform what was our original thinking. With that, thank you very much for this afternoon's invite. Thank you again.
Thank you, Sim Lim. It's very important to hear from the business owner in terms of how technology is applied to the way in which he delivers his service. Please join me now and welcome Johnny Chung, the General Manager, Head of FinTech Division, China Construction Bank Asia, Daniel Cho, the President of Cloud and AI Business Group, Asia Pacific for Huawei, Chen Kuter, the Chief Digital Transformation Officer, FSI Enterprise Business Group from Huawei, and also he's the former CIO of China Merchants Bank, so that business angle is very important in contextualizing what we're going to be hearing today. I want us to have a panel discussion on the future of finance, challenges and opportunities shaping the industry today.
Hello everyone, my name is Johnny Chung, the Head of FinTech Division from China Construction Bank Asia.
Hi, I'm KJ Chen. It's my honor to join this panel. Actually, I am the Chief Digital Transformation Officer of Huawei FSI.
Hello everybody, this is Daniel, and I am President for Huawei Cloud and AI Business Group in Asia Pacific region.
Since the beginning of 2020, the outbreak of the unexpected COVID-19 has caused immeasurable loss to the world economy. The impact of the pandemic will be transformational, especially for the financial services industry. So the first question I would like to ask is, what are the challenges and opportunities that each of you see in the global financial services industry as a result of this pandemic?
I think the first priority is how to enable most of our employees to work remotely in a safe and effective manner. It will include to revisit the entire business continuity plan and also to upgrade our infrastructure, including more notebooks, more VPN bandwidth, more network bandwidth, so that the employees can be able to access our network, our services remotely. In the meantime, it's also important for us to accelerate our digital transformation agenda to provide more banking services in an electronic manner so that our customer can also able to enjoy our services in a remote way and safe way.
I think the challenge actually is, we never been before in the whole financial industry, but this time is different from the financial crisis, right? So first of all, from a business perception, you will see loan loss provision. It's huge amount compared with before, right? Next one is quantitative easing from the government. So interest rate is lower, so we can see the financial report from many banking or financial institution. We can find the NIM actually is decreased, right? So revenue is down, then the pressure comes from we have to improve our efficiency. That means lower your cost. But another direction you can find some business is pretty good. For example, wealth management, right? Trading business. So this is business perception, right? Let's come back to talking about the technology. You will find that work from home is a challenge, which never happened before, right? So we have to construct a network to support the employee. They're working from home and contactless. So we have to redesign your branch journey, right? And digital, I think the digital transaction, digital channel has increased so much, right? So to the bank, there are so many challenges to handle those kind of things, to serve the customer by digital channel, right? So, for example, work from home, there are so many video conference compared with, conventional office, system. Actually, it's quite different, right? I think behind the challenge, another opportunity is the whole economic, transform to the digital economy, right? So I think the bank will, have great chance to accelerate the digital transformation, right? So and also I think the technology when we're facing the pandemic, for example, contact tracing, mobile application, big data, that sort of things. And government will do the stimulus to protect the economic. So I think the infrastructure investment is going to be increased. For example, in China, right? So I think 5G, IoT, and that's also that sort of new technology. I think as a bank, as a financial institution, there is a great opportunity to improve your competence by using the new technology.
Gunther, let me ask you this question as a follow-up. What about the trends that we are looking at today are going to be long-term and enduring? And what about the trends, immediate and short-term, specific to the crisis that we have right now?
I think when we start to used to in this the virus spreading and resurging, lockdown and the spread still come back, right? So it seems like we have to live with the virus for a long time. So I don't think it's going to be a short period of time we can come back to the normal life like 2019. So I believe we probably will live with the virus, living with the pandemic, right? Contain the pandemic. In the same time, start to have new life, new normal. So from financial institution, I think we have to come back to revisit, redesign our business continuity management, right? So we have to treat this as a new normal. So there are so many uncertainty. For example, the supply chain being disrupted, right? So many countries they have because they have to contain the pandemic, right? So they disrupt the supply chain. They have to, for example, for the medical care, the supply chain of medical care will become local and nationwide. So we can see that this is a new normal, right? So as a financial institution, when we face those kind of uncertainty, I think that we have to build a very robust infrastructure to let our business become so agile to address the new situation, new market changing, right? So it's very important actually to financial institution. And we also can find technology investment, usually you have to pre-invest before the business can, fully using those kind of technology. Usually will take about, 1 or 2 years. So I think as a technology people, we have to think about this, right? To build up a very robust infrastructure, for example, migrate to cloud computing, right? To using public cloud and also migrate your legacy system, to the private cloud or public cloud, to build up an agile platform, a digital business platform, which can empower your business operation can be agile. So I think in China, we are pretty commonly using the super app architecture, right? And so I think this is a good way to moving forward.
Thank you, Chen. That's an interesting point that I'd like to think a little bit about. Because of COVID-19, this whole idea of contactless is becoming important. And it's actually something that we want in society. But contactless means a number of things. It means, it could mean, digital in terms of payments and so on. It's also virtual reality, games, and so on. And a lot of that is going to be driven by 5G in the way in which technology can support contactless in society and in industries like finance. So what can 5G bring to the financial services industry, do you think, on this front, Daniel?
Exactly. 5G now is a very, very hot topic within the industry. I think as exactly what you mentioned, there's a few key points within 5G. If every time when we are talking about 5G, number one is the ultra low latency. And number two, it's the ultra large bandwidth, also for the massive connection. So when we discuss about 5G, these are key three factors. Connected back to the finance industry or banks, right now, actually, Huawei, we are doing a series of trials, testing in many areas with branches of the banks in different countries. I think there's a few key area or directions we're looking at. Number one is the contactless service, especially for last half year time. I think everybody in the situation of the epidemic realize how important the contact service it is. So think about it, under the 5G, you have the super large, ultra large bandwidths. They're making a lot of the possible. Previously, for example, in the video conference, these are helping a lot for the daily interaction with your customers, with your clients. And secondly, also, when we're discussing about the 5G, another area we're looking at it is the risk control. We know the 5G originally was built for IoT. So IoT is one of the original perspective for the 5G. So using the massive connection features of 5G, which enable us can have the sensor or measurement in many different areas, corners. This is helping a lot on the risk control point. And last one is also in the, we call it inclusive finance service. I think Sim is also here today. For many branch and retail business in bank, the key challenge for them is they always in a quite dilemma situation, quite conflict, whether I should invest into every corner to build our branch in every corner of the country. This is always a difficult and challenge for people from cost perspective point of view. Does it make sense or not? But with 5G, I think one of the key feature or key application we're booming up is AR or VR. This help a lot. This can create anytime, anywhere, the interaction or communication with your customers. This also can cover a lot of your challenges or your worries for the areas where it makes sense or cost effective to open branch. So these are the key areas we are discussing or engage in 5G together with the finance sectors.
Thank you, Daniel. Let me ask this question to Johnny Chung. We talk about 5G, and now we talk about AI and developing a unique digital experience. What trend do you see in terms of how 5G will transform the banking experience?
5G will definitely transform many industries, such as manufacturing, healthcare, and transportation. So it's important for the bank to consider the way to serve our client and also their customers in the future. Because 5G is not just a technology, it's the way to transform the entire society. In the meantime, the bank also needs to consider how to adopt 5G to accelerate the transformation of the business model, including some fintech innovation, leveraging 5G, IoT, and big data. In terms of challenges, 5G will definitely have a new way for us to reconsider our cybersecurity. Because imagine we have a mobile ATM, mobile branches. We have to ensure that to adopt 5G can also able to be resilient with cyber threats. This is important for us to reconsider for the entire transformation to a 5G society.
You know, with 5G, we have a lot more data that's available, the speed of the data, the latency of the data, and the power of data becomes, great. It creates great opportunities. It also creates great challenges for the banks. As traditional banks will be facing even more fierce competition from fintech players who already use big data techniques. And then there are other challenges, right? Operational costs, increasing cybersecurity, and there are regulatory challenges and regulatory requirements to be met. What are the key challenges that banks face in making full use of this new surge and power of data in digital finance? How can banks maximize the value of data?
I think digital transformation. The key is data, right? So when you you migrate your transaction process to a journey, right? So you are going to collect a lot of data from customers' behavior, right, through the digital world. So what I'm going to say is data is key, and to make you generate the value and make you allow you to optimize, improve your consumer experience or your user experience, during the customer, when you serve the customer, right? So as a bank, usually we pretty much focus on the, transaction data. We keep this very safe and very secure. But in the digital world, I think there are so many alternative data. For example, mobile devices, right? Where, the customer spend the money, or where the customer get into the online, and during all this journey, you can actually take a lot of information, right, from the digital world. So when you collect all this data, actually the challenge to the bank is how can we make the data as a single, united, unique data. For example, one digital ID to all the data, right? So you can very simple and easy to process data. And after the data you store, process, how can you empower your user, right, to using this data? I think in internet company, usually they're using very often of the hot data, right? When customer have any behavior, trigger the event, then this event will, very smart to let your people can take action, predict that what is the customer needs at this situation, at this context, right? So hot data is very important. Usually the bank, cannot using the hot data very well, or my experience is like this, all right? Second thing is we collect all this data. I think after we process, how can we, empower every department or every organization, they can using the data to build a model, right? They can, conventional is just run MIS, but this time you can build a model by using machine learning, AI to improve your, operation efficiency, improve your business operations. So I think to build a big data to build the data governance is very important, as a bank, during this pandemic, right? And you do the digital transformation. I think this is also a kind of journey that the bank have to learn how to collect all this data, how to store the data, how to process, and how to make the data be unique, digital ID, unique customer ID, and then can dispatch the data by using hot data or to different operation, different organization can generate the value, better serve the customer, better run your business. I think this is very important. Yeah.
I think the phrase data storage and big data has now become a part of our lexicon for the last 10 years or so. And in that time, we've learned to harness, tame, process, and use big data. And Huawei has been at the leading edge of making that transformation. It used to be a story about servers and so on, and now it's the chip that enables us to harness that data. So, Daniel, give us a sense of what's happening in Huawei at the technology end, and where are you going to be pushing the technology that you're already bringing to market right now? So what can we expect from Huawei on the technology front?
Yeah, now we come back to discussing about the storage. As also, I think Sim just mentioned, the clearly industry trend for all the finance institutions as well as many banks is clearly the digital transformation, or people saying digitalization. This is where bring huge growth of data, which is very clear. From Huawei point of view, from our side, what we want to make sure is for the banks, they can always keep both reliability as well as the performance in terms of the data processing. We always aiming to provide an end-to-end solution and also emphasize 24/7 hours continuous data processing to our customer. That's why we start introduce our flagship or the superstar product we call Ocean Store Dorado or Flash Array, which we put the innovative smart metrics and the hypermeter, which is based on the NVMe technology, offering to our customer. I think this can address this issue, what we all realize or we think about it, how to keep a balance to make sure both reliability as well as performance can have. Yeah. Secondly, I think for many other scenarios when we need have this massive data processing, we also introduce and have another product we call the Ocean Store Pacific Distributed Storage. For this product or this solution, we offer large capacity, lower cost, and more important, it can help a lot on the flexible expansion for our bank's customers. And it can support native portals for big data analytic, which very, very important for today's banks. And it helps a lot also on the TCO savings, as well as it can keep to have the better efficiency in the system. And I think my colleagues later will also to give more detailed introduction on this product.
We've had a pretty robust discussion on the technology itself that Huawei is introducing into the marketplace. It's actually very exciting. And then, of course, the impact of COVID and what's going to be long-term and enduring and what's going to be short-term and immediate and so on. Now, let's follow Peter Cho, the president of Huawei Data Storage and Intelligent Vision product line, who will take us on a virtual innovation tour into Huawei's largest storage research center and production center. Hey, Peter, I want to actually visit the actual site, okay, whenever I get the chance. But today we'll do the virtual tour where Peter will help us explore the technology itself and also the process and perhaps as important, the QC that Huawei has put in place in order to make sure that the product Ocean Store enterprise storage arrays is able to deliver the kind of reliability that the financial services industry needs. So Peter, over to you.
Hello everyone, I'm Susie. Today is my great honor to invite Dr. Peter Zhou to discuss Huawei Ocean Store Storage. Peter Zhou is the president of the Data Storage and the Intelligent Vision product line. Hello, Peter.
Hi, Susie.
So I heard that Huawei Ocean Store Storage right now is #1 in the Chinese market and enjoys the fastest growth rate in the whole world.
Exactly. Even in such difficult situation, Huawei storage globally in this year, first half of this year, we really got great achievement. The global increasement of our business, even beyond the 40%. Definitely in Chinese market, in terms of the marketing share, we are #1.
Great. So today, let's talk about Huawei Ocean Store Storage in more detail, and especially how it has achieved such great success. And before we start, let's go to Chengdu, where the largest Huawei Ocean Store Storage R&D is located. Let's enjoy the video clip.
Huawei Storage Research began in 2002 and is now a vast and powerful research network with 12 research centers in North America, Russia, Europe, India, and China. The largest center is located in Chengdu, China. The Chengdu Research Center was founded with openness, vision, dedication, and passion to bring digital to every person, home, and organization for a fully connected, intelligent world. The 5,000 square meters of the Chengdu Storage Lab hold 2,666 cabinets with 15,000 storage devices and tools for remote data storage, R&D, storage solution verification, and interoperability verification. The digital management and O&M platform of the lab was built for high efficiency, energy economy, and security to provide global R&D engineers with instant environment services 24/7. The platform precisely locates devices and automatically manages device health for remote O&M, multidimensional statistics, and real-time O&M maps, creating a panoramic data view for lab management. The lab infrastructure features a sleek design to maximize energy efficiency and expansion. Inspection robots work with a streamlined staff of O&M engineers to provide environment services for global R&D. The digital management and O&M platform also allows concurrent verification and demonstration of different features and solutions, such as flash acceleration, backup and disaster recovery, data migration, and video surveillance solutions. Huawei customers trust its active solution due to its superb performance, robust reliability, and abundant features. It has been successfully deployed in over 800 environments worldwide. Huawei's data migration solution supports simulated verification and customization. It has successfully helped more than 2,000 customers relocate zettabytes of data. Interoperability between products from different vendors is a priority for R&D engineers. Huawei established its industry-leading storage open lab in 2006 and has continuously invested hundreds of millions of dollars to resolve these compatibility issues. The lab features 5,000 software and hardware products from third parties, including more than 900 operating system versions, 100 server series, 150 host HBAs, and 140 switch models. It also contains thousands of backup, network management, clustering, database software, and hardware driver products. The lab has verified over 10 million scenarios and uploaded the results to the Huawei website for public review. Huawei has received certifications for more than 1,000 third-party vendors. Huawei Storage has applied hard work and continuous innovation to grow step by step into an industry leader. It now has 12 research centers, over 4,000 research engineers, membership in more than 30 international organizations, and more than 2,000 storage patents to serve more than 12,000 customers worldwide. Huawei Ocean Store. Ubiquitous storage unleashes data power.
Well, that's indeed very impressive. So the video clip just now mentions a variety of really innovative technologies such as active, smart metric, and EC. So for financial systems specifically, what are some main features for storage systems?
Right, in financial industry, we really need the storage system being reliable with really high performance. On the other hand, also needed to be cost effective. For example, in core banking system, we need the system to be reliable. On the other hand, since the international and also internet transaction today happening so frequently, we need it to be really fast, that kind of higher performance. On the other hand, for example, in the risk prevention scenario, we also need a storage system being cost effective.
Yes. Right, so the video demonstrates in detail a lot of technical achievements of our Huawei Ocean Store storage. However, what are some innovations of the business model of our system?
In our system, we have two main business models. The first one is called effective capacity. Today, if you buy house, for example, you really pay the money in terms of the how big the area is. Anyway, the effective area is what you really care about. So, for example, if you buy 100 square meter area, that kind of house, then the effective the area might be 80 square meter. But in Huawei storage system, the effective capacity means if you buy 100 meter square, that kind of house, really you could have 200 square meter, even 500 square meter, that kind of effective area to enjoy it. On the other hand, the fresh air, that kind of new business model also really amazing. Before, when the storage system become old, we need to swap it. On the other hand, we need migrating all the data from this machine to the new machine. It's really costful. So today, our equipment can support our customer to change the parts gradually and also to upgrade the software smoothly. Therefore, it can prolong and protect their investment. On the other hand, they don't need to worry about to migrating the data from this machine to another one, really, so that will be really cost effective.
Wow, incredible. So for the next step, how will our Huawei Ocean Store storage develop in the future?
We will never stop innovating. We will try to introduce more innovation on media application, on artificial intelligence, and even more innovation on architecture. You will see more new products being announced this year later.
So Peter has been showing us the next direction of innovation for Huawei Ocean Store storage. Now let's go to visit Olympus Innovation Lab in Shenzhen.
Now we are at Olympus Storage Lab. To achieve cost-effectiveness, storage products are facing many world-class challenges. The Huawei Olympus Storage Innovation Technology Lab is a place to research core storage technology in the future. Today, I'm going to show you 3 of these technologies: P-log SSD, artificial intelligent storage, and DNA storage. Please follow me. Let's look at the difference between traditional SSD and the P-log SSD. Traditional SSD are accessed by RBA. Data access requires multiple times mapping, parsing, and forwarding. Therefore, the software stack is thick and end-to-end latency is high. P-log SSD is purpose-built for flash storage. It provides low latency with high-speed SSD interface. Compared with traditional interface, the latency of P-log SSD is only 1/10, and the performance is improved by 10 times. Huawei customized P-log schematics, which completes address mapping and metadata search at one time, which dramatically reduce overhead caused by multiple address mapping. Huawei self-development NICs implement data bypass CPU to access from SSD, avoiding the latency caused by the system scheduling, data copy, and migration. In addition, the POSIX interface provided by the P-log adapter are fully compatible with traditional applications without any changes for application. Latency is very important for storage, and a good cache refresh algorithm would improve the performance drastically. In this figure, the horizontal axis indicates time, the vertical axis indicates data block address, and the white dots show how much data are accessing the system. Now let's enable the common prefetch algorithm. The blue dots indicates cache hits. You can see only a few data blocks are hit. Then let's enable our AI algorithm. The green dots indicates his hits, and you can see how much more green dots than blue ones. With a higher hit ratio, the system latency becomes lower and lower. The diagram in the lower left corner shows that the green curve of our AI prefetch algorithm obviously surpasses the blue curve of the common prefetch algorithm. The AI algorithm is superior, then will continue to improve due to its ability to independently learn workload patterns. The lower right corner shows the effective comparison between the two algorithms and clearly illustrates the AI for Huawei storage. Data is growing exponentially. DNA storage uses a stable structure for molecule-level storage. We are working on chemical DNA synthesis, control optimization, encoding, and decoding. This research shows huge potentials. DNA storage will offer the following advantages. It will provide a storage density that is 1,000,000 times than disk. 6 kilograms of DNA will be able to store 175 zettabytes, which are the whole world data of 2025. The retention period is more than 100 years, 20 times longer than common disk. It can be easily preserved in a dry environment under room temperature. Huawei Olympus Lab committed to build an open and collaborative research platform. It employs top experts in cooperation with the worldwide universities, including ETH, EPFL, Tsinghua University, Huazhong University of Science and Technology, and China Academy of Science, etc.
Wow, that is a really impressive facility. So why was it named Olympus Lab?
Olympus Mountain is the highest mountain in the solar system, even 2 times higher than Everest on Earth. We try to use this as a slogan to stimulate our R&D guys to achieve more innovative ideas, to create much better performance and create values for our customer.
Wow, really? So does Huawei carry out its research by itself or in collaboration with others?
Right. The laboratory basically is really focusing on the research topics for long term. For example, beyond 3 years. We are doing quite wide collaboration with institutions and also a lot of universities. These labs basically are quite open to provide introduction on Huawei Ocean Store storage. On the other hand, I also would like to invite everyone to visit us locally and then to really experiencing our strong willingness to provide the best product.
Look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we've had a pretty comprehensive discussion on the technology that Huawei is rolling out, how it's applied in respective institutions, the hardware itself. I think we do need to understand technology from a technology perspective to appreciate the reliability, the latency, the quality that's required. So we've had that conversation. Now, what's going to be happening in the next year or so is that many countries in the region are going to be deploying their 5G infrastructure. So entire societies are going to become intelligent and very dependent on real-time information, gathering data from multiple sources, and so on. So this is going to be a country-level transformation. We already see 5G in Singapore. We're going to be seeing 5G in any number of countries in the region. So at this point, I'd like to invite Roland Wright Raffensperger, the Senior Transformation Expert for Enterprise Business Group at Huawei, who will give us his presentation, Accelerating Data Infrastructure for Future Banking.
Hello, and welcome to our session on how accelerating your data infrastructure can help you move more quickly into the future of banking. I'm Ron Raffensperger, and I'm a Senior Solution Director here at Huawei in Shenzhen, China. So what is it that is accelerating the changes within banking? First is that our customers' behavior is changing, and it's changing because of two things. One is more and more their life revolves around their mobile device, whether it's using Grab to call a car or Uber Eats to get something to eat or using their social networking. Everything revolves around that. The other thing that is really having an impact, and very quickly, is that we're entering a period of what we call the new normal. This is the post-pandemic, where people had to really rely on their mobile devices for all of the things in their life. What that's caused is a change, and it's a change that the users want everything to revolve around them, and that's where our big challenge is in the banking industry. So it has to be whatever device I happen to be carrying, whenever I want to be able to do this, and the user interface has to be customized for me. It has to do the things that I want it to do. So what are some of the challenges that this evolution is causing in the financial services industry? The real challenge is to balance your traditional banking with the new banking. And that means that you need to be able to handle things like increasing your transaction rates by a factor of 10, by being able to reduce the costs of acquiring new customers by a factor of 10, and also being able to meet the challenge that is presented by your customers expecting constantly that they will have a new experience by being able to go from new software being available every few weeks or even months down to being available within days or a week. So how can Huawei's data infrastructure help in accelerating your evolution in your industry? It revolves around three primary points. One is around being able to use intelligence for managing, being able to have not only safe and secure, but rock solid kinds of performance and very high performance at that. And finally, being able to scale, being able to have very low cost, very high volume storage. And so what you want is you want to be able to create a storage pool that is then fed from all of your applications, whether it's your traditional bank applications, traditional warehousing, or new kinds of AI accelerated learning that make it easy for you to compete in the future. So now let's look at each of those three characteristics, beginning with intelligent management. So Huawei has created a management platform that helps you not only to manage the overall system, but take care of a lot of the tasks that you had to do manually before. An example is for planning, where previously you had to spend a lot of time figuring out what data you wanted in which tier and how often that should be reorganized. With Huawei's intelligent management system, we can automatically do that for you. So the process goes from being very long to just happening within a day or so. The second is in actually how you allocate that storage space. So previously, you had to do lots of statistics. You had to then do estimates of what you thought futures were going to happen and be able to then arrange the storage for the different applications in your different kind of storage. But with our intelligent management system, we can automate that process for you. And the third area is actually running the system, the operations and the maintenance. And as you add more kinds of intelligent storage systems, it becomes much more difficult to be able to actually manage them. It takes a lot of manpower, takes a lot of time. Actual troubleshooting can be a real problem. So with our intelligent management system, we can give you all of the statistics that you need, and we can actually do projections of what you're going to need going forward into the future. We can be able to spot problems as they occur before they cause problems, and then we can react to those problems even after they have happened much more rapidly. So your troubleshooting time goes way down. Your reliability, of course, your availability actually goes up substantially. And we've also built into this system a capability that is pretty unique, and that is we understand that in order to be able to have the fast life cycle of product development that you need to be able to compete in the future, you need to be able to have the continuous integration, continuous development, and to do that, you need to have copies of your actual data so your development and test people can work on real systems as they're figuring out whether or not the new software is ready for deployment. Our intelligent management system can make copies within seconds so that your development and test people are always up to date, and you'll get much faster rollout of new kinds of software. The next area, we talked about performance, we talked about reliability. We use the terms fast and solid because it's easy to imagine. So the key to that is our Ocean Store Dorado all-flash storage system. This is really an impressive system. It has performance up to as much as 20 million IOPS. So no matter what kind of a load you have, it'll be able to be handled very easily without this. And from a reliability standpoint, we can actually have up to 7 of an 8 controller set of enclosures fail without any loss of the system as a whole. So whether or not you're doing normal kinds of business analysis, whether it's for your core banking, whether it's for data warehousing, or the kinds of regulatory reports that you need, all of these kinds of applications can be accelerated and become much more stable, much more high performance as a result of using Huawei's Ocean Store. So how do we do this, particularly around the performance? What is the key? So the key to that performance is what we call FlashLink technology. FlashLink is an end-to-end solution that we have created to be able to ensure that you always have stable performance. And it begins with how do you connect the storage systems to the applications, the servers that are running those applications. Well, we were a pioneer in using NVMe, which is an IP-based communications protocol. We use what's called remote DMA over a fabric to be able to provide this connection. And it goes from the servers through the network to our controllers, and from our controllers through to the actual storage disks themselves. This gives us a great advantage on latency, reducing it by up to 30%, and it also provides an end-to-end reliability. The second piece is our operating system. So within our disk controller itself, the storage controller, we have used a specialized version of an operating system that knows about what the computer is capable of. So it actually takes tasks, breaks them up, puts them in different parts of the computer to guarantee that you will always have this consistent throughput. The third piece is around being able to have the storage systems themselves. So Huawei makes our own controller chips that have our own algorithms inside of them, and they're on each of the storage disks. And they provide a number of capabilities, but two of them that we highlight are called wear leveling and anti-wear leveling. And just suffice it to say that between these two capabilities, they give you over 2 million hours MTBF, so very high reliability, very long life. And the final area is that we have now included one of Huawei's AI chips in our system. And what that chip does is it looks at your actual usage. So previously, you had to do a lot of guesswork to figure out what were the cache settings that you wanted to use to be able to optimize the performance. While using our AI chips, we can actually look at your real performance, look at the real activity that's coming out of your applications, and adjust the cache automatically. And this can give you a greater cache hit rate, which translates directly through to higher performance. So I know there may be a few skeptics out there in the audience. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to Huawei's Chengdu Interoperability Lab. This is the largest interoperability lab in China, in Asia actually, and we have one of our engineers, Mr. Zhou Hui, standing by, and he's actually going to demonstrate putting a Huawei Ocean Store Dorado system under stress, and you can actually see what the performance is, how many IOPS, and the latency that exists within this system. Mr. Zhou, take it away.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Zhou Hui, Senior Engineer of Huawei Data Storage Product Line. Now I'm in one of our storage labs. This is the test environment I'm going to show you today. The product for testing is a new generation Ocean Store Dorado 18000 system. It is connected to two servers using two fiber channel switches for network redundancy. Two servers are configured with two dual-port 16 gigabit per second fiber channel HBAs. Ocean Store Dorado system is configured with 8 controllers, 12 4-port 32 gigabit per second fiber channel front-end input-output modules. RDMA high-speed links are used to connect the controllers to two SSD enclosures. The enclosures have 70 NVMe SSDs, each providing 3.84 terabyte capacity. On the test host, VDBench is running in a Red Hat 7.2 operating system. Let's log into the test host and use VDBench as the test tool to set the test model. I/O size is 8 kilobytes. Read-write ratio is 7 versus 3 random, simulating OLTP service. Then we start a performance test script. Let's come to Device Manager to check out the performance. Instant performance doesn't mean anything, so let the system be running for 30 minutes. Now we can see the latency remains stable at 80 microseconds in the past 30 minutes. Yes, Oceans to Dorado made it. 81 microseconds. Wow! I remember the industry average is 500 microseconds. Oceans to Dorado supports minimum 81 microseconds, which is 5 times better. With this performance, Oceans to Dorado can meet the demands of performance in production and transaction scenarios. Then what about the performance after enabling software features like Snapshot? Will the performance drop down? As data volumes are increasing at a faster pace, enterprises must consider how to shorten the backup window. To address this issue, Oceans to Dorado all-flash storage uses HyperCDP to provide continuous, most frequent data protection with zero performance loss. We use the same test topology and map 2500 GB LANs to the host. Let's first log into the test host and use the VDBench test tool that uses the model of 8 KB 7 versus 3 random reads and writes to simulate OLTP services. We then start the prepared performance test script to keep delivering 1.1 million IOPS. The device manager shows the system performance is around 1.1 million IOPS. We create a HyperCDP task to protect 20 LANs in the group. Set the policy to create a snapshot every 3 seconds. Now start the task. We will see each LAN is creating a snapshot every 3 seconds. Go to the performance monitoring page. It shows the performance is stable at 1.1 million IOPS with no jitter.
So that should convince everyone of our performance and our latency. But now what about reliability? One of the key characteristics of our Huawei Oceans Dorado system is it's rock solid. And that comes from a number of characteristics. I mentioned the wear leveling and anti-wear leveling of our disks, but it also comes from our design of our controller system. So our system can go up to 32 controllers, but the basic unit usually is 8 controllers. And if you have that, which is 2 enclosures of 4 controllers each, you can actually lose up to 7 of those and still not lose access to your systems or any of your data, because all of the controllers are interconnected to all of the storage devices as well as each other, so the caches are all consistent across them. The second is on the connection between your servers, which are running your applications, and the controllers themselves. And here we have pathing software, everybody does, but with Huawei system, you can actually lose all but one of those links and still have complete functionality, so with no loss of performance. And part of that is a result of the NVMe, but part of it is that what we have done in our software to be able to support that. And the last area is on the reliability. So traditionally with storage systems, in the older days, we had actual RAID controllers that you would program, and they would control the disk distribution. And when you had a disk failure, then you had to put in new disk. It could take hours and hours to be able to rebuild that before you had true reliability again. Over time, most of us have moved to software-based storage, RAID control. But what we have done now is we've created a new kind of error-correcting algorithm that we call RAID TP. And this actually allows you to lose up to 3 disks, which is unheard of. Other systems, whether it's RAID 6, RAID 5, you can lose 2, but after that, you've got a lot of problems. With ours, you can lose up to 3. So depending on how we compare with a RAID 5 or RAID 6, we can get up to, theoretically, 1,000 times higher reliability as a result of this RAID TP algorithm. And because I really like to demonstrate this sort of thing when people come to visit our exhibition hall in Shenzhen, I always like to be able to go to our storage systems, pull out controllers, and show that nothing happens as a result of that. Everything continues to operate. Well, I'm not in our exhibition hall, and I'm not that great probably at showing it. So we're going to go back to Mr. Joe and have him show what happens when you actually do lose 7 out of your 8 controllers. Mr. Joe?
Welcome back. First, let's check the status of Ocean Studerada 18000 from the Device Management Software Device Manager. The 8 controllers are located in 2 controller enclosures. Now they are all running stable. Let's log into the test host using VDBench at the test tool to set the test model. I/O size is 8 kilobytes, read-write ratio is 7 versus 3 random, simulating or LTP service. We will then start the test script to keep delivering 1.1 million IOPS at 0.5 milliseconds to 8 controllers. Now VDBench is showing the running status. We can see the performance of 8 controllers remain at about 1.1 million IOPS in total. Let's come to the Device Manager, which shows the same performance of 8 controllers at 1.1 IOPS. Each of the 8 controllers is around 140,000 IOPS. The 8 controllers are 100% in load balancing mode. Now I'm going to cut down the power of one controller enclosure to simulate the failure of 4 controllers at the same time. From the Device Manager we can see the controller enclosure 1 is faulty. 4 controllers are offline now. The rest 4 controllers continue to provide services. The performance drops to about 550,000 IOPS. Load balanced on the 4 remaining controllers. Let's remove 3 out of 4 remaining controllers one by one and see what happens. Now controller enclosure 1 and 3 controllers from controller enclosure 0 are all offline. Only 1 controller is running. From the performance table, we can tell that the system is still running after we put 7 controllers offline on the remaining 1 controller. Now I will put all the controllers back to online mode to recover from the test scenario. Okay, the system is recovered and ready for the next test.
So, I hope you're now convinced. So this answers the question of what happens if you lose equipment within one data center. But certainly for financial institutions, being always available is of critical importance, not only to your customers, but to your regulators. And so Huawei has a solution we call Hypermetro. It allows you to have 2 data centers distributed by up to around 100 kilometers who are running in an active mode. So both data centers are running at the same time. The load from your customers and your internal applications is spread evenly between them. But if you were to lose one of those data centers, the other would continue to operate with no interruption. So your RPO, your RTO, both of them are 0. In addition, we have created the ability to have a synchronized remote site up to 300 kilometers away. That can also be synchronized. It's not running active, it's your fallback. And so even if you were to lose both of those main data centers, your backup would continue to operate. And this is really an impressive set of capabilities that ensures your business continuity. I think sometimes it's hard to visualize exactly how this active will really work in practice. And so we're going to go back to Mr. Joe in Chengdu, and he's going to demonstrate What happens when you have two systems running in parallel, operating your applications, and one of them just suddenly fails? So back to you, Mr. Zhou.
Let's look at the demo environment for a gateway-free Hypermetro active-active solution. In our solution, we use two ocean stored radar systems, touchline servers, switches, and optical fiber to establish a gateway-free active-active solution. This solution is unique because we can guarantee reliable services even when data centers are separated by the distance of 300 kilometers. The active-active design implements load balancing and non-disruptive takeover between two sites. Let's log into storages in both sites and have a look at Hypermetro configuration. This is the storage in site A and this is the storage in site B. Currently, these two storages work normally. First, we can have a look at the remote device of each storage. Two storages are connected through the fiber channel links. Also, we can have a look at Hypermetro domain. There is a Hypermetro domain already created and working in quorum server mode. Now, let's go to the Hypermetro pair. This pair now is working normally and the two resource LANs are mapped to the server inside A at the same time. Let's log into the test server and check the Hypermetro LAN. The Hypermetro LAN disk name is SDN. And now we start this VDBench script to keep reading and writing Hypermetro LAN. The size of I/O is 8 kilobytes, 70% read, and we start the script to read and write Hypermetro disk. Now the VDBench tool is simulating the service on the test server. Go back to the storages. Check the storage performance, first for the storage inside A and second for the storage inside B. Inside A storage, the amount of IOPS is about 46,000, and also for storage inside B, the amount of IOPS is about 46,000. So we can see when the server reads and writes Hypermetro LAN, the two storages in two data centers will provide service at the same time and they are load balanced. Next, we will show the non-disruptive takeover between the two sites, keep the service running, and simulate cutting off power supply of the storage in one data center. Here we choose the storage in data center A to switch off power supply. Now we switch it off. The storage inside A is inaccessible, and we go to check the service. The service keeps running, there is no interruption, because the storage in data center B has taken over all the services. Go to the storage in the site B performance monitoring page. We can see after one storage is down, another storage has taken over all the services. The business has not been interrupted. We have seen the Hypermetro solution load balancing and non-disruptive takeover between the two sites. Next, we just need to wait until the storage inside A to recover. Let's keep the VDBench running, waiting for the storage in the site A. Okay, now the storage A is back. The remote transmission link between the two data centers is up. The Hypermetro peer will start the incremental synchronization automatically, and after synchronization is finished, the Hypermetro peer will recover to normal. During this time, the VDBench service keeps running with no interruptions. The traffic of the two storages is balanced again. That's all the test case I wanted to show you today. Thank you for your attention.
So we've been taking you through what are the highlights, we've demonstrated how things operate. Now let's look at actually a customer case. So this was a bank that took a set of systems from different manufacturers and migrated them all to the Huawei Ocean Store Dorado. And this was more than 100 applications. They have more than 18 petabytes of storage in their systems. And they went to 100% all flash, both for their production as well as their development and test systems. The results were really quite amazing. So they were able to take their report times down to only about 15 minutes, and they have not had any problems because they've been running our active systems. So they've had this gateway-free hypermetro system that's been connecting their data centers together, and their efficiency has gone up dramatically. So now we come to the third leg of our triumvirate, if you will, and that is cost-effective distributed storage. One of the things about operating a future bank is that you're going to be collecting lots and lots of data that you didn't have before, and you need to be able to cost-effectively store that. But you really don't want to create different storage silos for this information because it's wasteful. So Huawei has our Ocean Store Pacific distributed storage system. It has three primary characteristics. One is that it supports all of the different protocols that you will need, whether it's the normal kinds of file system, whether it's the object storage, HDFS storage. All of these are supported within one system. It also has great density. So we can actually put up to 120 disks in a 5U enclosure. And finally, it has just incredible survivability. You can actually distribute this data across 3 different data centers so that no matter what happens, it's always available. So now let's look at each of these individually, beginning with the multi-protocol convergence. So you in the future are going to have lots and lots of different kinds of information. You've got log files, you've got audio, you've got video, you've got just everything. You could have streaming, social media, all of it has to get stored. Now traditionally, what you've had to do is store that in different systems because maybe it was coming in using a file protocol like NFS or CIFS, or maybe it was coming in using an object protocol like S3. But afterwards, you needed to process it using some big data technologies like Hadoop. And so to do that, you needed to be able to then get it out using HDFS. So many times, people will put it into different silos and then copy it all into a storage pool that then their big data system can work on. With the Huawei Ocean Store Pacific system, we support all of those protocols, including your normal SCSI and iSCSI protocol. But for the ones that you typically use to get in and out of your data warehouse, we put all of those into one data storage. So even though I put it in with S3, I can read it out using HDFS. And so this means that you don't have to copy things across storage systems, and it gives you a much more cost-effective system, again, building on the cost-effective characteristics of our Ocean Store Pacific system. And now, looking at capacity. So typically, if I wanted to have like 108 disks, I'm going to need 3 different storage enclosures. It's going to take up a lot of rack space. One of the concerns that CIOs and IT management has is that as the amount of data that I store grows, that I'm going to have to build another data center just for storage. But with the Ocean Store Pacific, we can actually get 120 disks in a 5U enclosure. And so at 24 disks per U, that's the highest available in the industry, and you can get up to more than 2.4 petabytes of information within that capacity, because we also use a very special way of EC. So I don't want to get too far into the technical details, but essentially with some of the open source distributed storage systems like Ceph, you actually have multiple copies, maybe one copy for each. So your overall efficiency is only about 50%. When you have some other systems, maybe you have 3 copies that are spread apart, and so maybe you can get 67% efficiency. With the error correcting that Huawei is using in the Ocean Store Pacific system, you can actually get up to 93% of your storage actually utilized. So you're not wasting a whole bunch of storage space just simply to have backup copies in case something fails. So we've shown you how you can have very large capacity with our Ocean Store Pacific system and how that capacity is very effectively used using our error correction. But what about the fact that now I've got lots and lots of data and it's all in one data center? What happens? How do I address the requirements of regulators and my security people to be able to spread that risk? So typically you will take and make multiple copies across up to 3 data centers. When you do that, of course, you have to replicate all of that amount of storage. Well, what Huawei has done is created a unique way to separate that storage, and rather than having complete copies in each of the 3, we distribute the copies across the other data centers so that any 2 data centers can reconstruct all of the information that was previously stored in all 3 of those data centers. It's a very unique set of capabilities, and it saves you up to 46% of compared to actually having to keep multiple copies. And it's also, of course, very fast to be able, because even if you lose that one data center, you can still online use the other 2 data centers and then rebuild the information that was in the lost data center. So really a unique set of capabilities. So let's take an example of a customer that has actually deployed the distributed storage system and see what the impact is. So this is actually China Merchants Bank. It's one of the leading banks here in China, particularly in how they've adopted technology. So they had put in a Hadoop system where they had separate clusters for their different use cases. And each of these was using a typical Hadoop environment where you have the compute and you have the storage as part of one server, and then you build up the system by putting those servers together. But that gave them very low efficiency. So the compute efficiency was down around 11%. The storage efficiency was equally low. So what we allowed them to do was to create one unified pool of all of this information that was previously in separate silos, and it can all then be accessed using the Hadoop system. So we took the storage out of the Hadoop clusters and put it in the standalone distributed storage system, and then it's accessed by the Hadoop cluster just as though it were local storage. And this dramatically increased the performance, and it also increased the efficiency of the storage system, giving them up to a 30% reduction in their TCO. So banking today is becoming ever more complex, and it's not going to get any better in the future. Not only will you have lots of your own systems, but you will be interconnecting with systems from partners across the globe, not just within your own home regions. And so you're going to have many different kinds of storage needs. And Huawei, because of the breadth of our product lines, is able to provide you that storage, whether it's storage for your big data warehouses using Hadoop, whether it's your active disaster recovery solutions, whether it's your normal kinds of storage that just needs to be accelerated by having all flash. It doesn't matter. All of these can be put together in one intelligent set of storage pools that Huawei can help you to manage over time. We have a lot of experience migrating from other companies' systems as well. And so I think that when you're looking at the complex requirements of the future bank, that Huawei really does have you covered. So now we've shown you all of the capabilities that Huawei's storage systems have, how they're very intelligent, they're able to be cost effectively supplied, and they're very solid, and they're very, very reliable. But of course, your situation is unique to you, and you need assurance that you are not becoming a pioneer on this. And so Huawei, of course, is in more than 170 countries around the world, and our focus on financial services industries over the last few years has resulted in very substantial growth across the world. So whether it's up 50% in Latin America, doubling in the Middle East, across Europe, Asia Pacific, and of course here in China, we have seen just really incredible growth. And we look forward to being able to help you moving forward to become a future bank. So that's it for now. Thank you very much for your time, and we appreciate all of your activities in support of Huawei.
Thank you very much, Roland, for that. And thank you to Simlim, to Johnny, to Daniel, to Kunta, to Peter, and also to the audience. I'm very happy to be able to have hosted to this afternoon's session. And as we take steady steps into the 5G era, entire societies are going to be revolutionized. The way in which we live has already started to be revolutionized. And it's really a very good time that we spend together today to be able to see where this technology actually comes from, and that Huawei is actually a leader in making this technology available on the engineering side that now starts to show itself in the way in which society as a whole operates. When we think about intelligent bank, when we think about intelligent society, when we think about smart cities, we now start thinking about the way in which it's technology that Huawei brings into the market that makes it possible. So thank you all for joining us today. I hope that you enjoyed today's virtual conference, and we will take what we've learned and remember and apply that in our respective lives. Have a good day.